Good afternoon, all of you. Now, as we are revising the chapter Outcomes of Democracy, and we have already done 3 points, so just like a quick recap. Now, in this chapter, we are basically looking at what outcomes can we reasonably expect out of a democracy. You know, it is the most preferred form of government. So now, since we prefer it over all the other forms of government, we know, so then obviously it should also perform certain things for us, and there should be certain outcomes which we can reasonably expect out of democracy. And we have seen that what we studied in class 9, that democracy is the best form of government, and we had a look at its advantages also, that it promotes equality among citizens, it enhances the dignity of the individuals, improves the quality of decision making, it provides a method to deal with the conflicts, and also allows room to correct the mistakes. And we saw that that is why it is the best form of government, we know. And we also had a look at what are some of the outcomes that we can expect from democracy. And the first that we look at, that we could expect a democratic government to be an accountable government, a responsive and a legitimate government. And we saw that democracy did not fare very well on this account, and the result, or the way democracy does on this particular aspect, is like just an average, and it does not do very well on this particular aspect. Then we had a look at economic growth and development, and we saw that if we consider all the democracies and all the dictatorships for the 50 years between 1950 to 2000, dictatorship, they have a slightly better rate of economic growth, but then just because of that, we cannot simply leave democracy. And now overall we cannot say that that democracy is a guarantee of economic development, but but still, because the difference is so negligible, so obviously we cannot expect democracy to lag behind dictatorships in this interest on this particular aspect. And there are so many other things that are in favor of democracy, so it is better that we need to prefer democracy, as it has some other positive outcomes. Then we saw that on matters of reducing inequality and poverty among the people, that here also the democratic governments, they do not fare very well. And we have seen that though the poor population, the poor in India constitute a very large part of our population and a large part of our voters also, and that we have seen that no party would like to miss their support, but yet no democratically elected government, they have done much to remove poverty from our country. And the situation we have seen is much worse in some other countries, and like some countries which are even for the food supplies, they are dependent on other countries. So for the first three respects, we have seen that the outcomes of democracy are not very good. Now let's move on and have a look at the fourth one, that is the accommodation of social diversity. Now the question is that do democracies, they lead to having a peaceful and harmonious life among citizens? Now if democracy is all about people, then it could be reasonably fair to expect this outcome from democracy. And during this year, when we started this book, and in the first chapter even, we have seen that how democracies, they were able to accommodate the various differences, the various diversities that were among the people. And even in the very first chapter, we have seen that how Belgium, they were able to very successfully negotiate and find out a way among all their ethnic problems. And now democracies, they usually they develop a process or a procedure to conduct all this competition among the various different people that are present in a society. And because of that, this reduces the possibility of tensions which can lead to being very explosive or violent also, as we have seen in the case of Sri Lanka. Now no society in the world it can fully resolve all the conflicts that are there among the different types of people, and they can also not permanently resolve all the problems that can arise between the different groups of people. But we can certainly, when we live together, so we can learn to respect the differences that we have, and we can also find out a way so that we can negotiate, like though we are so different, but we still find out ways to live together. Like in families also, many times the siblings are so entirely different, but still because they have to live together as a family, so the brothers, the sisters, they find out ways and means, so how even in spite of having so many conflicts, so many fights, and so many disagreements, still we find out ways and means to still stay together and still be considerate about the others. So the same thing goes on even for the country, and democracy we can say is best suited to bring out or to produce this outcome, that is to accommodate the social diversities among the people. Now non-democratic regimes, now what they do most of the time, they turn a blind eye towards all the diversity that are there in the country, or they try to suppress the differences that are found in the society. But the ability.
Ma'am, but you are lagging.
My voice is lagging.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, don't worry beta, just maybe some connection problem, it will be better in a while. Okay, just have a little patience, I think it will be better. Now the ability to handle the differences among the people, the social differences, the divisions among the people, and the conflicts which can arise because of these diversities. Now the ability to handle all this is a plus point for democratic countries. But we have seen the example of Sri Lanka, and we have seen that though it was a democratically elected government, but still we have seen that what happened in Sri Lanka, and the civil war and all that, and we have seen it all. So but the example of Sri Lanka, it reminds us that democracy, it should try to achieve, or it should fulfill two conditions, very important conditions to fulfill, or two conditions so that they can achieve this particular outcome. Let's see what these two conditions are. First, when we talk about democracy, it is important, it's very necessary and important to understand that democracy is simply not the rule by majority opinion. Democracy is ruled by majority, but it is not the rule by majority opinion. Now the majority, they need to work along with the minority, so that the government is able to function smoothly and efficiently, and also so that the government can have a general view. Otherwise it will have just one view, all right, or one side of the coin, and the other would be totally neglected. And so the majority, they need to work along with the minority so that the government presents a general view. And we need to remember that majority and minority opinions, they are not permanent. Like today I could be in a majority opinion, but maybe tomorrow what my opinion is, it could fall even in a minority slot. So and the second condition is that it is necessary that the rule by majority, it does not become rule by majority in terms of religion or in terms of language group, all right. So though democracy is ruled by majority, but still it should not become rule by majority community, means it should not be on the basis of religion or on the basis of language or any such difference. Now rule by majority, what it means is that for every decision or for every election, different people can always become a part of the majority. Now democracy can remain a democracy only till the time every citizen has a chance of being in majority at one point of time. So like today those who are in minority opinion, tomorrow they should be in majority also. Now if that is not happening, then that is not real democracy. So what we mean to say is that rule by majority, what it means, that whatever whenever some decisions are taken in the country, or whenever we have elections, so every person, different groups of people, and different people and different groups, they all may always could have a chance to be in majority. Now if someone is barred, if we don't allow someone to be a part of the majority, now that could be on the basis of birth, on the basis of birth only, there are so many differences on the basis of birth. It can be on the basis of gender, or even on the basis of our religion, and then it could be on the basis of the language we choose. So if anyone is being barred from being in majority on the basis of any of these things, then the democracy ceases, it stops to exist for that particular person. Okay, so now what we could say is that democracy is the best suited government for the accommodation of social diversity, because everyone in democracy always has a chance to be in majority at one point of time, and no one is a permanent winner and no one is a permanent loser. So everyone has a chance to be a winner once in a while, and that is why people, they can still live together. Okay, now we move on to the last aspect that we can expect from a democracy, and that is the dignity and freedom of the citizens. Now democracy, as compared to any other form of government, it stands much superior on promoting the dignity and the freedom of the individual. All of us have a hunger for respect. We all want to be respected, and we want our fellow members, our fellow citizens, our fellow friends, we all want to receive this respect from them. And often conflicts arise when we feel that we are not getting the due respect, means the respect that we want. When we don't get that respect from our fellow members, our fellow friends, then conflicts arise. And now that can be true for a group of friends also. Now if one of the friends, his voice, his opinion is never heard, and everyone pulls him down all the time, and so after a while it could lead to conflict in that particular group. That person would feel that no one in this group, they respect me, means whatever I say, no one even cares about it, and it could lead to the disintegration of the group, or that person moving out of the group. Now this passion for respect and freedom, they are the basis of democracy. Now democracy throughout the world, they have recognized this principle that all the people, they desire respect, and they desire to have a certain amount of freedom for their proper development. Now so democracies throughout the world, they have recognized this. Some democracies, they have recognized it more as compared to the other democracies, but this has been achieved in various democracies in various degrees, some more, some less. For societies, many of the societies, they have been built on the principles of subordination and domination, where the high caste people, they have dominated the lower caste people, and now for them it is not a simple matter to recognize that everyone is equal. Now till a few years ago, they had been looking down on those people, they had been discriminated, ill-treating those people, and now for them to consider that no, for the Brahmin to consider that the Shudra is equal to him, now that is not a very easy ask. Now they have given an example also, and they are saying that let's take the case of dignity of women. Now we know that most of the societies throughout the world, they had been male dominated societies, and women for long years they have struggled to get equal voting rights. We have seen that when we were doing French Revolution, that women, they were classified as passive citizens, and they did not have the right to vote, not the right to vote it for, and not even so no political rights they had, and they were simply like thought to look after the home and hearth and raise families and all, only that. And so basically societies have been male dominated, and so women, they have struggled for long years, and through their long struggles, they have created this sensitivity today among the people of the world, that they also need respect and equal treatment. And so now after long years, when they talk about respect and equal treatment, now people, they have started to consider that yes, these are necessary ingredients for a democratic society, and this had been after long years of their struggle, protest and all that. Now, so though now people accept this fact, but now that does not mean that women are really or actually treated with respect everywhere. Though this principle is accepted, but still women are not treated equally or with respect everywhere. But what the advantage in this acceptance is that once the principle of equality and freedom and respect is recognized, then it becomes easier to wage a war against what we consider as unlawful or illegal. And so it becomes easier when it is accepted that women also should have equal treatment, and they should also have equal political rights, and they should also be treated with respect. So now it becomes easier for women to wage war if they are not treated equally. But in a non-democratic setup, this moral force of acceptance, it is not there, because the non-democratic regimes, they are basically not much concerned about all this. And now the same is also true in the case of caste inequalities. In our system in India, the caste system was prevalent, and we know that how deep the caste inequalities here are. But democracy in India, it has strengthened or made strong the claims of this disadvantaged or discriminated caste, the caste and the classes of people which have been ill treated, and those that have not got the benefits of education and development and all that, and those have been looked down for centuries by the people of the higher caste. And so now democracy, it has strengthened the claims of such people. And though we still know there are still instances where their people, they are not treated equally, and on the basis of caste, people are ill treated, they are discriminated, and many times they are killed also. But still though they are done, but still now they do not have that moral or legal backing or moral or legal foundation, because it is unlawful. And perhaps it is this recognition that makes any ordinary citizen value the democratic rights so much. And that is why even the countries which are democratic, though they may not be very happy with the democracy which they have in their country, and even the countries which are not democratic, everyone, they think that democracy is good for their country, and it is because of the recognition that ordinary citizens get in a democracy. Now, expectations from democracy, now they are also they can also function as a very important criteria for judging any democratic country. Now what is the most distinctive and impressive and important thing about democracy is that its examination, it never gets over, and as soon as it passes one test, then it is again it is faced with another test. And people, they as soon as they get some benefits out of democracy, they want more benefits come from democracy, and so as soon as they get some, they want even more, and they want to make democracy even better. And that is why when people are asked about the way democracy, the way democracy functions in their country, or how they want democracy to function. And so the people, they always come up with so many expectations out of democracy, and they are always loaded with so many complaints against democracy. Now the fact that the people, they are complaining, now that itself is a success of democracy. And why? Because it shows that the people, they have developed an awareness, and now they have developed this awareness, and they also are capable, and they can even look critically at the power holders, and they can even criticize them, criticize those who are ruling over them. Now this dissatisfaction, so many times people, they are not satisfied with democracy, and they express it also, and this expression of dissatisfaction, it shows that the people, they have transformed, that now they are not mere subjects of a ruler, but now they have come to the status of citizens. And that is why this is the real strength of democracy, and that the people, they rise up from the level of just being slaves or subjects of a king or a monarch, and they become citizens of that country. And most individuals today, they believe that their vote, it makes a difference to the way the government is run in their country, and they know that their vote can also make a difference for their interests. So they know that okay, their vote really has power, and it can bring about their own welfare, and their development, and the development of their country. And so what we can say is that on the last two aspects, that is the accommodation of social diversity, and the main thing, that is the dignity and the freedom of the citizens, democracy, it fares very well. And if you remember in class 9th, while we were doing the advantages and the merits and demerits of democracy, and we have seen that even if democracy does not fulfill the rest of the things that it says, that it may not improve the quality of decision making, and it may not provide or every time provide a method to resolve conflicts, and all the time it may not even allow room to correct mistakes, but still it is the best form of government, because it enhances the dignity of the citizens, it enhances the dignity of the individual, and it lifts the individual from the status of being a subject to the status of being a citizen. All right, so that was the chapter. Any confusion, anyone? Yes, class 10th, any confusion? Ashja, Fatima, Vinayak?
No, ma'am.
All
Ma'am,
clear?
the fourth question in NCERT book.
Hmm. Fourth question in the book. This one, identify the challenges. This one, no. Which one you are talking about? Identify the challenges to democracy in the following descriptions. This one?
Yes, ma'am.
To know the following descriptions also suggest policy institutional mechanism to deepen democracy in the given situations. All right, okay. We don't have much time for this now, but on the group, I will send you the answer of this question. Will that be okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay then.